The information in this recording is general in nature and should not be considered personal advice. Please consult a professional and qualified financial advisor to discuss how this information may apply to your personal circumstances. Thanks for listening.
Okay, great. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us this morning. My name is Adil Abbas, and I'm a licensed financial advisor. Joining me today is my business partner and co-advisor, Dane Pimble. Some housekeeping. We like to keep this session interactive, so please participate via chat or going off mute when we stop for a conversation or for some questions. Feel free to turn on your camera. This will make it a more human experience for all of us. So before we get started, please note that any opinions or conversations we discuss today would be general advice only. If you wish to act upon anything you hear about today, we strongly recommend seeking advice from qualified professionals prior to making a decision. Now, if this is the first time you're joining one of our workshops, then just a bit about us. At Own Financial Planning, we have one simple philosophy when it comes to money. It's that life is more than money. Money is simply the tool that enables you to live your best life. So it is our mission that in all our advice, we aim to align money decisions with key life decisions to help our clients lead their best life. And we do this by implementing an integrated approach as shown on this particular slide. So we just don't talk to our clients about their best life, but we actually help them live their best life by surrounding them with relevant experts to improve their overall well-being. We ensure our clients' financial plans provide not just for the traditional definition of investing, but investing in the non-financial aspects of their life too. This helps them to start living their best life today and not in some distant future. And today's workshop is one such example of our integrated approach of working with different experts to achieve the best outcome for our clients. So that's a bit about us. We'd like to know what brings you here today. So let's do a quick poll.
If I get this one right.
And Dane's going to bring up a poll, and
I am. So it should be up on your screen now.
Right.
Looks like the two questions have popped up again, Adil. So we're just addressing question one.
Yeah. And then I think we've got one person in the waiting room. I just got a text message.
Okay. Yep. They weren't there a second ago. There we go.
Oh, Dane, seems like people have to answer both to submit. I'm not able to submit at my end. Maybe people can just put ABC in the second one for now.
Apologies for that. Yeah, just put a sort of nominal response for question two. I'll just give it a few more moments, Adil, just while people are answering that poll. And hi, Lisa. Hi, Claire. I saw you guys just jump in. Feel free to come on camera. Lisa, I know you're on a plane, so that might be a little tricky for you. But we're just in the middle of just a quick poll as to why you're here, what you want to get out of this. A few more seconds.
And then maybe if you can bring up the results and we can see what's everybody's been thinking about in 25.
Yeah, just got those last answers through. All right. Cool. So a bit of a reasonable spread. Mental well-being, there's a couple there. Family relationships, work and career, and financial well-being are the main ones.
Great. Seems like the conversation we're going to have with Vanessa today, hopefully we'll try and touch upon how can you get to high performance across all these aspects of our life. So I would like to now introduce our expert guest today, Vanessa Bennett. So just a quick intro about Vanessa. Vanessa is the CEO of Next Evolution Performance, a global high-performance coaching business using neuroscience to help leaders and teams to optimize profitability, productivity, and energy, and to decrease their effort, sickness, burnout, and mental health problems. Vanessa has a Master of Science in Psychology and Neuroscience of Mental Health with distinction from the Institute of Psychiatry, Psychology, and Neuroscience at King's College London. She also has over 20 years of experience in the financial services and health and fitness professions. She was the head of financial advisor distribution for Dimensional Fund Advisors for Australia and New Zealand, with assets under management growing from 1 billion to over 9 billion during her tenure over 8 years. Additionally, Vanessa also qualified as a group fitness instructor whilst completing her undergraduate university studies and has always taught classes on top of her professional career. She has been with Fitness First for 20 years as a senior group fitness instructor and mentor. Welcome, Vanessa, and thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much, Jill. Dane, great to be here.
Vanessa?
Great to have you here. So Vanessa, as I was preparing for our conversation today, I came across this quote and I thought this is so relevant to our discussion today, because given what you've accomplished personally in your career and life, I believe there must be some system to it, a system to achieve consistent high performance across different aspects of your life. And I know the system you really speak a lot about as a high performance coach is around energy credits. So maybe we start there. Can you explain this concept and why is it so critical to high performance?
Yeah, absolutely. And I totally agree with this. This is a great statement. I always like to think about, success is really just the sum of really small, consistent parts. And you need systems for that. So it's not something that you want which is not sustainable. You want something which is definitely sustainable for whatever goals you want to achieve, and particularly on a very consistent basis. So the energy credit system that we use is really starting to bring in this concept of what we call cognitive energy. So think about physical energy is to athletes what cognitive energy is to knowledge workers. All right. So if athletes were to overspend their physical energy, they're likely to get injured, burnt out, all of those kind of things. Whereas that's not really as much of an issue for us. For us, it's more overspending cognitive energy. And that's where we just keep, our brain is just on all the time and not necessarily doing the right things either. A lot of people are just busy being busy. They're not necessarily focused on outcomes. So think about cognitive energy as basically what we need in our brain for what we call our prefrontal cortex to be working optimally. So that's a part that we need for our work, like decision-making, analytical thinking, problem-solving, creative thinking. We also need it for things like emotional regulation. So cognitive energy is absolutely crucial. And we find that if knowledge workers are overspending cognitive energy, then that's when they're likely to get burnt out. And where the energy credits come in is we like people to think about this idea of rather than trying to manage time, think about how you're trying to manage this cognitive energy. And imagine you have, like, say, 100 energy credits in a day, and you need to make sure that you're investing them wisely. So if you work on a few things, they might only take you 15 minutes each, but what if they're taking 30 energy credits each time? You could be all out of cognitive energy by 10 a.m. So, it's helping people to invest those energy credits very wisely. And that's across work, it's across home, it's across any sort of facets of your life.
So it's a bit more than time management, if I'm understanding this well, Vanessa, that you could I think a lot of us over here on this call probably are a lot of us here are knowledge workers. We kind of look at time management as what we've been taught over the years, and that's the programming I think a lot of people have. What I'm hearing from you is it's slightly different. This is about energy allocation aligned to time. Keep your thoughts on that.
Yeah, great question, Adil. It's actually, it's very different, but the byproduct will be a better use of time if you manage your energy first. Okay. So for example, we have about 4 hours a day of heavy cognitive energy available to us. So if you just go through and do the next most urgent thing on your list, you'll be doing the wrong tasks at the wrong time, which might mean that you are spending way more energy credits than you would if you understood cognitive energy and you were doing the right tasks at the right time for you. So generally speaking, if we know how to optimize those 4 hours, people will get more done in 4 hours than the average person is probably taking 6 hours to do. So imagine an extra 2 hours per person across all areas of your business. If you're running a business or a company, that would be incredibly significant in terms of output and salary savings.
Understand. So don't be ruled by your inbox and other people's priorities. Think about the energy you may expend to actually do that task, and then try and try and plan your day according to the energy, like the energy required to get a task done.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. So if it's a time of the day where it's just not working for you, if we try to do a heavy task when we don't have the heavy cognitive energy to match it, you'll find that it will take longer to do. It will feel a lot harder. So hence, you're going to be further on that path to burnout, and you're more likely to increase your error rate as well. So that's not a really good result. I generally find it's really interesting. People always talk about, oh, we really want to improve our productivity, and they're looking for the next best system and software and AI and blah, 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 blah. And it's like people have totally overlooked what's in between our ears as a way that we can really optimize that and get more done in less time with less effort.
So then is the starting point, do an energy audit? Is that a way to think about it rather than a time audit? Because a lot of people do time audit of their calendar. Are you suggesting we do energy audit over the last 1 month and do an energy audit?
Exactly.
And if so, how would you go about that?
Yeah, for sure. So firstly, it's always good, like we help people to start to think about tasks in terms of how many energy credits it would take people to do the task. So it can really be good at the as you go through and you're working during the day, just to keep a bit of a log, a bit of an energy audit of, well, how did that feel when I did that task? Did it feel like it took like a lot of energy credits, or did it feel like it only took like a few energy credits? So start to think about everything that you have to do in your work, say over the course of a month, and start to think about it, not so much in terms of time, but how many energy credits did it take? And once you start to get a feel for how many energy credits things are taking, then you can start to overlap, well, what's the best time of the day for you to do particular tasks? But this doesn't work, of course, like, if people are just only focusing on, I'll do the next most urgent thing now, they're not doing this. And also leaders, we work a lot with leaders, and it's like, if you just keep giving your staff, well, there's the next thing to work on. Well, there's the next thing to work on. You're kind of taking this all away. So you're actually better to have slightly longer deadlines, but a lot more for people to work on so that they can kind of allocate and jump in between.
Interesting. That's a very interesting idea, Vanessa. Maybe I'll just stop here for 1 second and see if anybody on the call has any initial questions to understand this, I would say, concept slightly better. So please feel free to go off mute or to type your question in chat, because I think this is a fundamental understanding of difference from time management and energy management. I think if people have questions, happy for people to jump in.
I have a question, Vanessa.
Hi.
Hi. So as you were talking, I was just wondering, are you correlating energy credits with sort of physiological times in the day when we're more apt to have the energy, as you say, to address the most important tasks, I guess, in the day rather than most urgent tasks?
Yeah.
And then second part to the question is, as you were talking, I was thinking about something I did yesterday. And as I was doing it, I felt very focused, very at ease with what I was doing, able to kind of go through multiple files, so it wasn't overly complex, but I felt very at ease with it, very efficient with it. Is that a good read on whether or not I was using the energy credits properly, or is there something else?
Yeah, no, exactly. So if I go to the second question first, if you sort of get to the end of that and you go, actually, I felt like I was crushing through that, it didn't really feel like it was taking a lot of this mental load, then that's probably something that you would find is easier to do at a time when maybe you have less of that cognitive energy. Okay, so you wouldn't be wasting your sort of high power times doing something like that, because you can kind of do that anytime. So you're absolutely right. So everyone's got different biorhythms in terms of when they have the cognitive energy available. So, this whole thing of everyone should wake up and do the hardest thing first, that's not really appropriate for a lot of people. Those people would, if you're not a morning person, you'll end up just procrastinating for 2 hours until you start and do the first thing that's hard. Otherwise, you could have been doing something that's a bit lighter for 2 hours first and then getting into other things. So everyone's different. We call them 4 hours of power. So we kind of help our clients to determine, what are the 4 best hours in your day for you to be doing your heavy cognitive load. And then the trick is exactly making sure that you're doing tasks in that time that reflect that, because a lot of people get excited. They've got so much cognitive energy at the time, and then they just do the light stuff and it feels like they're turbocharged. But of course, then you come crashing down if you've got to do the heavy stuff during the time when you don't have the cognitive energy. That's when things go awry. So it's about, however long, we always say to our clients, it's not the hours that you work that leads to burnout. It's how you work those hours. So if you optimize your 4 hours by doing the right things at the right time, if you then do a lot of lighter tasks, still very productive, but in a time that feels easier to do them, you'll get really productive hours across your whole day. But the way most people work is they just do the next most urgent thing, and they only end up getting about 4 hours worth of work done in a day, but it's spread across 8. And people go, oh my God, I feel exhausted and I'm really burnt out. And it's like, are you? And so, it's because of how they're working those hours. So it's not really a time thing. Like, everyone's got 168 hours in a week. It's not that which delineates high performers. High performers are just absolutely, really anal about how they're using their energy throughout the day, so that they're crushing through 8 hours worth of work in the time that everyone's still, getting tired over 5 hours. So yeah, if you can get those systems in place, then it should feel effortless. I've got people who work really long hours who it doesn't feel effortful at all. So it's not about that. And fixing burnout, everyone thinks it's, and it's interesting to this day. We have people who, as soon as they say, we're increasing performance, but without burnout, they think we're all about yoga classes and fruit bowls. And nothing could be further from the truth. We need to systemically change the way that we are using our cognitive energy throughout however many hours we want to work in a week. The physical stuff is lovely to do. Don't get me wrong. I'm all about promoting, exercise and health and fitness and good nutrition and things like that. But compared to people working 40 to 50 hours a week in the totally wrong way, that's where the problem lies. So if we get that bit sorted, then the rest starts to become a whole lot easier.
Concurrent to that point, Vanessa, something that I learned working with you is that the career doesn't happen in a vacuum too. So the energy credits that you've got don't just apply. You don't turn up to work or business life with necessarily with your full 100 energy credits, so to speak. There are other parts of your life that can positively or negatively can contribute to that. And one of the things that I know I got a lot of benefit out of from you is kind of, like doing that energy audit, understanding the times of day where I'm going to have more energy, but recognizing that there's more than just one part of your life as to how you allocate all of that. And then that positively bleeds into all to your career, but also into your family and in your social life as well.
Yeah, exactly. Often we've just got stuff going on outside of work that's taking some energy credits, right? Those energy credits go across all facets of life. So you kind of need to dial it up and dial down, the proportion of how many energy credits you're giving to work versus stuff going on outside of work. And that's okay. The trick is, it's like if people try to maintain the same level of energy as the stuff going on inside of work, and then things go on in the peripheral around the outside, it's got to come from somewhere. Like if you need more energy credits over here, then you kind of have to take them from somewhere else. So it's helping people to kind of go easy on themselves and recognize that. But also conversely, when you're, if you're managing teams and whatnot, then it is in your best interest to help people to spend less energy credits outside of work as well, because there's a thing called the work-life stress spillover, and it goes both ways. So it's, any sort of stress can start in outside of work and it flows into work. It can start in work and it flows to outside of work. And so it's bi-directional, and it will spiral both ways. So it might start outside of work, it will travel inside of work, and then it'll travel back again to outside of work. So helping people to manage all sort of facets of their whole life will actually make very good business sense.
And Vanessa, just on that then, because I think, all of us want to have high performance across every aspect of our lives. But of course, you would start to, at certain times, you will just run low on certain, you will just feel, I would say, disappointed. And that could be just a result of you not having the right energy for it. What may be how do people accept and recognize that they're running low on something? It may not be a good time to allocate energy to it, and how should they respond to it? Because people do want to get that high performance across everything, but it's in reality could be really challenging.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in that your body will whisper to you to start with, and then it will start screaming. So if you actually start to sort of be more aware of what your body's telling you, because even if it's the cognitive energy that we're worried about, it will start to manifest itself physically as well. So most people have signs when they feel like they're pushing it a little bit too hard. And it's really, I guess a lot of people just kind of go until they kind of crash. And this also comes from belief systems. You know, so many people were taught you've got to work hard and, like, you know, get to school unless you're literally dying. You know, that kind of belief system from when we're young carries over to, oh, I can't possibly give myself permission to just kind of like take a day, or maybe I work a little bit easier today. And maybe I work on lighter stuff today that's still productive, but I don't have to go out all guns blazing. So I think the more that we give ourselves permission to sort of have those ebbs and flows in our effort levels according to our energy, I think that makes a big difference. But it's the people who ignore it and just go, I have to, it should feel hard, and I have to go hard all the time to justify my existence. That's actually the wrong way to go about it. So basically, I have a theory that, you know, if work feels hard, you're not doing it right.
Interesting.
I guess the contrast, the contrast to that too is the other side of it is that even if you don't have the energy, there are certain parts of your life, whether it is family, business, career, or other, where you've got certain obligations that have to be fulfilled, that you've got a responsibility to fulfill, and you may or may not have the energy for that. So the contrast to those points, how do you handle those extremes?
I guess a bit of it is actually planning as well. Like if you know you've got a lot of things coming up, whether it's family or whether it's work-wise, like you just need to make sure that you're doing things before and factor in things after. So for example, like I know that for us, February and March are absolutely full on. Everyone's running offsites. People want to start the year with new things, and April, everyone's kind of pulling back because it's school holidays and Anzac Day and blah, blah, blah. So I know that I go lighter in April, whereas February, March is absolutely full on. So I need to make sure that, you know, anything on a personal side of things is pretty much taken care of in January or April. You know, any sort of like extra health checks and things like that, I always get them done outside of those times. I don't want anything that doesn't have to be done during those times personally having to interfere with those kind of things. So it's just about kind of, you know, knowing sort of the seasons of your work a little bit can help with that, but also, you know, if you've got things going on with family, well, when are the busy times at school? You know, when do kids need you, if that's what you're managing as well. So it's just generally a bit of planning around that, like knowing when things are going to be crazy. And even if you don't know, like I work with some people who are, say, investment bankers who they don't know when the next deal's coming. We need to train them so that if the deal isn't on right now, stop killing yourself.
Yeah.
All right. Like go easy, stop going out for benders, take slightly easier days at work. You don't have to stay till 11 o'clock just to look busy. Really nurture yourself, because the second that the deal is on, you need to make sure that you're ready, because you are going to be working long days and long nights and all of that kind of stuff. So it's really helping people to factor in those ebbs and flows and to capitalize on those and to recognize when it's okay to take those.
Do people have questions for, I would say, Vanessa, just based on the, like, as she's been expanding on the concept of how to manage energy, how to kind of think about it? Does anybody else have a question based on conversation in the last 5 minutes?
Hi, I think there's something that I was sort of mulling over while we were talking about it, and like I don't work, I'm retired, but I actually don't know how I ever had time to work, to be quite honest. You know, there's so much going on.
Well done.
Yeah. A little bit around, you know, managing property and everything. But for me, it's about the outside influences that are sucking the energy, and especially, you know, from when I started work, the role of technology coming into our working life. And it just seems everything is so complicated. So you've got the technology, companies have outsourced all the work to their customers because, you know, there's a technical way of doing it. There's email overload. You know, how how do you stop these sort of external things from, sucking? Because honestly, this is hitting you from everywhere, and then and it just doesn't seem to leave energy for anything really important, or even, strategic thinking, rather than, just trying to deal with people's websites and logins and things like that.
Oh, I hear you, Irene. Absolutely. I think I've got the technological age of a 95-year-old. So that's always been a bit of an issue. People always say to me, what do you miss most from your corporate life? And I'm like, my IT department. That's kind of it. And so, they can definitely take some energy. And I think, having a look at even sort of what you can outsource, there's actually a lot that you can outsource these days. So can you, even just like using Airtasker and things like that, you'll find people that might have a certain expertise in things. I am the queen of outsourcing. If it's going to drain my energy, I will probably look for another way to do it. Even to the point where it's like, in a supermarket at self-checkout, I will stand in the queue ready for someone else to check me out, and I'll just check my emails at the same time. I'm like, I'm not doing self-checkout unless I'm at Uniqlo. If you've tried those self-checkout things where they just weigh everything and off you go, they're amazing. But at a supermarket, I don't have a master's in neuroscience to scan my goods. I'm sorry, that's just not a thing. So I will happily stand in the queue, but I will do other stuff in the meantime. I will stand and read a book if it means that someone else is doing that for me and I'm not spending any energy credits on how to use a scanning machine. So it's about kind of being, having the boundaries around what is it that you're prepared to do and what is it that you can potentially outsource. I always have a theory that someone will be better at this than I am. So I want to make sure that I'm doing the bits that I know that I'm really good at, and that's my superpowers. And, anything else I will tend to outsource. Have someone who's a handy person around the house, have someone that can look at your IT stuff for you, set up bits and pieces and computers and things like that. I do very little of that. So yeah, you need to be kind of like ready to outsource a bit, but I'm all about every single energy credit that I can save so that it goes into the stuff that really only I can do, and that it's only me that wants to do it as well. Even with my husband at home, he actually really, he owns a whole stack of restaurants, and he actually really loves cooking. He's not a chef, but he loves cooking. And so I would much rather do a keynote presentation in front of 1,000 people than I would spending energy credits on preparing dinner. So I don't cook. And then I also said, oh yeah, those people who like, if you cook, then I'll clean. I don't like cleaning either. So I'm not going to do that. So, we can either get someone to do that for us, we can eat out, whatever, but that's not how I'm going to choose to spend my energy credits. So, yeah, but public speaking, no problems. So anytime there's public speaking, it's like, it's okay, sweetie, I got it.
Sometimes the upbringing can really make an influence on that too, Vanessa.
Yeah.
That there can sometimes be a sense of guilt to wanting to be you might be in a financial position to be able to outsource, but there might be a sense of guilt going, is this just laziness, or I should be the one cleaning, or like this shouldn't be something that I outsource. Like how if that is your mindset, how do you sort of help combat that, or what's your perspective on that if you think that way?
Yeah, well, I think firstly recognize that people are shoulding themselves all the time. Like, I should do this, or I should do that, or I should like this, or I should like that. It's like, no, who cares? Like, just be really honest with what it is that you want to do, and then look for ways to outsource the stuff that you don't want to do. And there's no point spending energy credits judging yourself for that. And so we spend, so many people spend a lot of energy credits on what they should be doing and what other people think of them and all of this kind of stuff. And it's like, let that go. If you stop spending energy credits on that, then that's energy credits that you can be spending elsewhere.
Vanessa, then for me, it makes me think, like, then where is the, if we just start saying, yes, you know what, I'm not good at this, I don't feel good energy about it, I'll give it to somebody else. Where do we strike a balance between learning new things and challenging ourselves, and then constantly feeling like, oh, it doesn't feel good, I don't enjoy doing it, so let me now give it to someone else? How do you strike that balance?
Well, you can continue to learn in stuff where it makes sense. Like I'll read more academic papers on neuroscience because that's where I continue to learn. So that's where I get my thirst and sort of quench that for, I want to learn new things and all of that kind of stuff. But there's some things that like I just don't care about. So You know, I'm not going to spend energy credits trying to get good at something where I know that someone else can do it better than I can, cheaper than I can. And I'm just not that interested. So it's, and your brain, so neuroplasticity is actually set up for that. Neuroplasticity is basically your brain is like a muscle. And so you've got a whole lot of neural pathways that are set up to work with your strengths, because that's like the more that you keep using your brain a certain way, then the better it gets and the stronger that neural wiring gets. So the effort and energy credits it would take for me to try to get good at something that I'm not interested in and that I don't care about is a waste compared to putting those energy credits into learning something new about the things that I do know and I do care about, and really amplifying that superpower. So yeah, you know, it's about a matter of still learning, but only in things that, you know, really are interesting to you.
Interesting. And then I know, as you mentioned, like, and again, each of us, because energy is such a personal thing as well, I guess, and everybody kind of feels differently. Have you, in your experience or through the science, do we know there are specific behaviors or things people can do to recharge themselves when they're feeling low on energy?
Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, there's a lot of things that can be done to recharge. I always say, but it's interesting, that's the bit that people want to go to first. And we always take a step back and just go, before you think about recharging, it's like, why are you so low on energy in the first place? So think of it like a budgetary situation. All right. If you want more money and there's no borrowing and you've got to keep it legal and you can't steal, then you've got two choices. You can earn more or you can spend less. It is way easier to start spending less immediately than it is to earn more. And everyone wants to go straight for the, oh, how do I earn more? And so, you know, it's kind of like that with energy as well. It's like there's so many things that we can do to stop spending energy credits first. Then we've got more energy to invest in energy giving activities. All right. So if I want to go and increase my energy, I still need a certain amount of energy I can do to invest in that to then get more energy. Like if I take exercise, for example, exercise is generally an energy giving activity, but you know what? It takes a bit to get your shoes on and it takes a bit to pack your gym bag. You know, like you have to invest a certain amount of energy credits to actually get a good return on investment for that. So if someone's spent all of their energy credits for the day, telling them to go to the gym and, you know, do a 10K run on the treadmill or something, like you'll kill them. So you've got to have a certain amount of energy credits to get you there in the first place. So really trying to spend less first so that now you've got more energy credits to go and then invest in more energy giving activities. And energy giving activities are typically things that you enjoy, that's restorative. Again, it's different for different people. Some people find staying at home and cooking is re-energizing. I'm like, kill me now. There's no way that I would find that re-energizing. That would be awful. So, you know, everyone's different. So it's about finding what is it that works for you, that re-energizes you, and then making sure that you're carving out the time and you've got the energy credits to invest to do that.
How do you then have the conversation? Because again, we are not islands, like no man is an island, as we said. How do you have a conversation with people at work or with your family? Because they expect you to just do things. Like, you know, all of us just fall into these roles. And then how do you start this conversation to say that, you know what, I want to be a good parent. I want to be a good employee. I want to be a good boss. And people have the right intent, but then they just get slotted into roles and feel like then they're forced to do things. And when they say no, people see it as like, oh, you're just being lazy. You're not doing your job, blah,
Where
blah,
that guilt
blah.
comes from. Yeah.
And the guilt and all of that. How do you have the conversation with people around you and make sure that people understand why you are saying no, why you're doing things in a certain way? Because I feel sometimes that could be the most challenging thing because you're not operating in isolation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I, you know, always found that as well when I worked in financial services, and I also teach fitness classes part-time. So, you know, saying, oh, I'm just off to teach class and I'll be back in, you know, 2 hours by the time I shower and eat and whatever. You know, now I was probably working longer at the end of the day, but, you know, it was one of those things where you just have to focus on results. Like if you're getting results, people actually don't really care. So when you can make sure that you're focusing on results and actually getting whatever it is that, you know, you need to do at work, then, you know, no one really minds, and you put the results first. And obviously at home as well, you know, you do need to start having those conversations of like, to be good partners and parents and siblings and all of this kind of thing, like you need to put yourself first. You do actually need to put your own oxygen mask on first. And there is a lot more neuroscience around that these days to support that. I used to always think, oh, well, if I'm healthy, then my brain's healthier and then I'm more productive. But I didn't have in those days, I didn't have the neuroscience research to support that. Now, if anyone questions, I just give them an academic paper and tell them to go and read that. But it's really helping people to, like, you just have to have that conversation around, I want to be better at this and I can't do it on low energy. Like, I don't think anyone can really argue with, if I'm really tired, things feel hard. Like, would anyone else argue with that? Like, everyone knows that if they feel really tired, things feel hard. So, I think kind of understanding that people around you probably don't want you to feel really tired all the time. I don't know, maybe I'm deluded, but if I said I'm going to be, so long as I exercise and do this, I am far better for everybody. It lifts mood. There's some more mental benefits to movement or whatever it is that you want to do. It's just having the right people around you, basically. But I've always said, people say to me, what's one of the best things that you can do as a high performance strategy? I'm like, be with the right person. I was single for a long time because I didn't want to have a whole, someone draining a whole lot of my energy credits every day. It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Does anybody have any questions, or just based on personal experience about what Vanessa has been sharing about getting other people involved in the system? So maybe I'll stop there and see. Seems like no questions at this stage. Maybe Vanessa, then, given we are at the time of the year when we at the start of the year, and this is the time when everybody is like trying to set goals and resolution, intent and word for the year or whatever it might be. But of course, there are at the same time, given the fact that we're just leading such busy lives now, many a times when you start the year, you do feel like you're starting on an empty energy bank. How does one recover from there and then kind of start to channel energy in the right way? Anything or any perspective on that?
Yeah, planning the year makes a big difference. So having your annual leave sort of roughly mapped out during the year will make a big difference for that. And, making sure that, like, we see a lot of people generally from around, it's getting earlier and earlier. It used to be November. Now it's sort of like late October. People are like, oh, I'm just crawling to the finish line. And I'm like, how is that a way to live? 2.5 months of the year, you're spending exhausted. And quite frankly, if you're running a business, the financial year is too short to spend 2.5 months of the year feeling exhausted. So it's about, over that the Christmas period and everything, how do you carve out time to make sure that is really energizing for you, and making sure that you're using that to get your energy credits back again. And also planning out the year so that you've got your annual leave booked at certain times so that you can re-energize along the way. So, for example, my husband and I take a big trip in the middle of the year, and then we also take just like a little bit in April and October, because that's also in line with school holidays when it's a little bit quieter work-wise, because a lot of our clients are taking time off at that time. So that's just kind of the cadence that works for me personally, but also for the business. So that's just kind of what we've worked out as a good way to manage that. And then I do like taking a time off over January as well. And I actually don't like to travel over January. I don't mind doing sort of a road trip up to my in-laws, but I don't want to get on a plane in January because it's the 1 month of the year that actually I don't have to get on a plane. I get on so many other planes throughout the year that I don't want to. And that's just something that kind of works for us.
Thank you. Any questions for Vanessa? Anybody would like to jump in?
I have another question. I'm just going to come back to these 4 hours, the 4 power hours, because I'm like, how do I get those? How do I know where they are for me, or how I make sure that they're there and I recognize when that energy, like that, you know what I mean? How all of what we've been talking about in terms of maximizing the energy credits, but then how do I recognize when they naturally sort of happen for me, given the best of habits, I suppose, and just maybe natural physiology or whatever? Is there anything in your research or readings that I can kind of look out for in my life?
Yes. I mean, there used to be sort of a bit more of this way of thinking that there were kind of 3 broad sort of chronotypes, but now there's just more research coming out that you know, then there's 5, then there's 7, and it's kind of like, you know what, no two brains are the same. Everyone's very different in terms of this. So part of keeping that energy audit is to kind of start thinking about, you know, how did you feel throughout the day at certain times? There's going to be certain times of the day where you just go, oh, actually, it turns out I'm a bit rubbish at 3 p.m. Okay, great. Well, let's not try to do, you know, cure cancer at 3 o'clock. You know, that's when you do something a bit lighter. So you'll start to find that if you keep a log over the course of, you know, say a couple of weeks or a month, you'll start to see some things will probably get become clear. And it might even be you have different days of the week. Like, for example, I'm pretty similar on a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. My Mondays and Fridays are a little bit different. So that just might be a bit of a cadence for you as well to notice. And interestingly enough, like, you know, especially if I'm dealing with entrepreneurs or if I'm dealing with people in very senior roles where realistically they're probably going to do some work on the weekends, there's probably a couple of hours on the weekends where if they can just carve them out and that works for the family, you know, they'll get 5 hours done in 2 hours. Why not do that and maybe take it easier on a Thursday afternoon if that turns out to be when they start to be a bit rubbish? So think about your whole week as much as you can. Obviously, you've got to factor in, you know, the whole life, but I don't see working hours as between here and here. I just go, it's all just life. You know, I got to fit in life, family. I got to fit in the work and clients and everything. So there's certain things where it's not negotiable in terms of I need to be available, and there's other times, you know, when I can be a bit fluid. I also work across different time zones. So, for example, I had a client that started last night, you know, for his one-to-one session, but he's based in London. So I'm working from 6 till 9 p.m. Well, you know what? That means that I could take off a couple of hours in the middle of the day yesterday. Why not? So that I've got that energy there and available. But I think, Gabrielle, just kind of spend a few weeks, just kind of keep a bit of a log, and you'll start to see some patterns as to, oh, actually, I'm really good on like Tuesday mornings between 9 and 11. Okay, well, maybe I need to block that out so that no one kind of, you know, jumps into my diary or anything like that at the time.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else would have a question? You can type it in chat as well if you don't want to go off mute. Okay. Dane, can you see anything in the chat? I am not.
No, there's no questions that have come through from what I can see.
Okay. Maybe just as we get towards the end of our conversation, Vanessa, maybe one of the things probably I would maybe just as we start to wrap this up is like, if someone could change one habit today to improve their energy allocation, what would you suggest it be?
Yeah, I'd say even just if you can identify 1 hour a day where you're really cognitively on and just do your heavy cognitive work in that 1 hour. And if you can get 1 hour of power done, you'll start to save quite a few energy credits to do that. So I think that's probably a really good place to start for a lot of people. Yes, and outsource. Yeah.
That one.
Big fan of outsourcing.
Very good reminder.
Exactly. That's right. Yes, I'm fully mindful of the fact that, you know, I pay even to do my taxes and things like that. You know, I have a Bachelor of Business with a double major in accounting and finance. So I could probably do my own taxes if I wanted to, but I don't. So I pay someone who I literally went to university with to do my taxes. And I'm quite sure I'm kind of, we got the same degree and I'm handing over, but that's okay. Just honestly outsource everything that you don't want to do.
Question, thanks, Vanessa. A question from Claire. Hi, Claire.
Yeah.
So Claire missed the start of our talk. Is there any sort of reference materials that you could share on this research? Claire's been reading Atomic Habits, which fits the quote that Adil's got there. Is there anything else that you would suggest people read?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. I'm actually writing a book, so you can read that once I've written that, hopefully. Hopefully by the end of this year. Yeah, it's always a hard one. It's like there's so many books out there. And you know, it's all, a lot of them are, you know, some of them are incorporating some of the neuroscience around this. Probably Deep Work is probably another one that's got a bit in there that's not too bad, but a lot of the stuff that we do is a culmination of just like reading lots of research. So We tend to go more to the research than we do straight to any sort of particular book per se. Yeah, hence, why I'm writing a book. So.
If I understand it right, Vanessa, you run occasional workshops around these key topics as well too.
Yeah, absolutely. So we run open workshops, which are all online. So it doesn't matter where people are. It caters to the Asia Pacific time zone. We run them generally in May and then again in October, where we're really just going through how do you optimize your day as a starting point. So optimizing cognitive energy without the burnout, and how do you structure your days. So we run those. And then we run a bit more on the mindset side of things. So there's 2 workshops in each. You can just do one if you want, but we certainly recommend 2. And that can also be a pretty good place to start on as well, where we take you through all of those kind of things.
Right. Just mindful of time as well, Vanessa.
Sure.
I think we can start to get into I think we're very keen to understand from everybody what their key takeaway was. I know what my key takeaway was not to stand in Coles and do like a self-checkout. For me, that was very powerful. I'm like, I do it. I just do it because I think it's easy and convenient and it's faster, but actually I could use that time and energy doing something else, like as you said, check my emails, read a book, listen to a podcast, things like that. Why do it? For me, that was my sort of real aha moment of this. Of course, there were quite a few, but that one just stayed with me. But anyway, how about everybody else? Maybe feel free to type in the chat as to what is the one thing you can take away from our conversation with Vanessa today that you can implement tomorrow. Go off mute, tell us in the chat.
I'll throw another one out there that I know. I'm sure many are familiar with the concept of time blocking, but I found sort of with Vanessa's help, tying time blocking to that the times when you have more or less energy. So Vanessa was talking about sort of planning out your week or planning out your year. Keep that in mind as to the times of the week that you've got more and less energy, and allocate what you know is to be sort of more intense work at the time where you're going to have that energy, and vice versa.
And of course, if you want to keep in touch with Vanessa, here are some resources she has kindly shared. These are some ways you can stay in touch with her. Please feel free to connect with her on LinkedIn, and of course, connect and follow with her if you want to know more.
Can you put those in the chat, Adele? So
yes, I'll do that as well. Sure.
Everyone will get a follow-up email too with all these resources.
Yes, actually, we will do it. We will do it that way then, I guess. That's just. Dane, I guess, did you want to take over and just bring us home after this?
Sure. All right. Thank you. So, most on this session will be familiar with a lot of these concepts. For those that are, just as Adele mentioned at the beginning, at AIM Financial Planning, we've got one simple mission. That's to help our clients live their best life. And that's recognizing that life is more than just money. And I hope that's sort of very relevant from what we've learned today. And it's simply just a tool that enables you to live that best life and then be able to think about things like leaving a legacy. And so all of our advice, we aim to align your money decisions with your life intentions. And so, getting the most out of your career and having that energy applied in a productive way is obviously really important in terms of personal fulfillment, but also in living a fulfilled life. And so the basis behind our advice approach is centered around Dr. Margaret Swarbrick's research on the 8 dimensions of well-being. And we believe that the overall well-being is essentially, it's a healthy approach to living. And that could mean doing purposeful work with high energy, like we've talked about today, enjoying good relationships, eating well, having a work-life balance, and of course, financial freedom. So it's very different for everyone, and it's different for everyone at different times in their life. This is something that's constantly evolving. And so as we're preparing the advice for you, or as we're supporting you on an ongoing basis, we continue to aim to find out what that means for you right then and there, and what you're working towards. You want to jump the next slide? Okay, we'll go straight to the survey. So for those of you, many of you who are clients who have gone through the life and values exercise, this will be quite familiar to you. But in case you haven't, then we'd encourage you to check out this QR code and complete the life survey. It only takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and it'll just help you get a good gauge of the areas in your life that you consider to be the most important. And through that, it helps, hopefully from some of what you've learned today, think about, oh, am I applying the appropriate amount of energy to these areas? And then am I taking a structured approach to improving in the other areas of life that are important to me, but need a bit more work? And we're always happy to have a chat with you as to how we can help put some structure around helping you get to those goals. So a little bit about what's coming up over the next few months. We've got a few different workshops coming up. The guests TBA, but essentially in Q2, it's all talking about money and relationships and how to navigate those money matters together. And then in Q3, we'll be looking at, for those that have ever contemplated the transition from career life to starting a business. We want to sort of unpack that and what are the challenges, what are the opportunities associated with that. And then lastly, we'll be talking about legacy. And so concepts such as estate planning and preparing, for those of you who have children or adult children, preparing for their financial success on the back of you having your own life and goals sorted as well. So that ends the formal part. Again, Vanessa, Adil and I really appreciate the time that you've given to us today, and also for all of you on this workshop. Really appreciate you taking time out of your week and investing some energy here. Hopefully it was in positive energy returning, so you can apply that into the rest of the week. Thanks very much.
Thank you.